Welcome to Backyard Bows. Hey, welcome to Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon, and today we have this Trigon by Top Point. So what I did is I went on Amazon. I read a lot of comments. There was a lot of different reviews on some of these more inexpensive bows that you can buy on Amazon. So I ended up buying 6 of them. I looked at everything that they came with. We kind of inspected the bows a little bit, and then we decided on one and then shipped the others back. So the one that I went with is the Trigon. So Top Point, if you look in the manual, it looks like they have 2 bows. I went with the Trigon for obvious reasons. But the bow itself seems like a really good bow for the price. And then on top of it, you get a variety of things that come with it. Kind of a starter pack. And you know me, I'm not real big into the starter packs, but this one came with a lot of different stuff that I think for a beginner bow hunter would be cool to have. So specs of the bow, 31 inches axle to axle, 7-inch brace height. It goes from 19 inches out to 30 inches. And then the draw weight, which is really, really flexible, goes from 19 pounds out to 70 pounds with turns from the limb bolt here. And I always like when you can see the screw. You know, it allows you to be able to know how far you're backing it out without taking the screw all the way out. And the riser is aluminum machined riser. And again, this one, to me, after kind of looking at all of them, this one seemed to be like just a really well-made bow. It also came with, I think, 18 arrows. Each one of these arrows, I think 570 grains. It come with an entire assortment of little things. You got your release, you got a stabilizer, a sight, you got a little Allen wrench set, you got multiple of these rests, and I think they give you multiple because, you know, this particular whisker biscuit rest, the bristles on those wear down really, really quickly, and I think that's why they give you multiple, because you'll wear those out and then your arrow will kind of be loose. So you got 3 of those. You got a little bit of extra string. I love these, help you take your arrows out of the targets. It came with a couple extra peep sights, a bow stand, some grip tape, a quiver, kind of a wrist guard. If you're a beginner, it might be worth it to put that on there, at least for your first couple shots that you're gonna be taking. Hitting your forearm once, twice, you know, sometimes is the best way to learn not to do it again. But if not, if you've never shot a bow, maybe put it on at the beginning just where you can get your grip right. And it also came with a couple targets, kind of an arrow, sling, case, hat that you probably won't ever wear. So I would say some of the stuff is fine. And it's kind of nice to have. Some of the other stuff I would probably never use, but it was a nice little package. Again, $360 for the bow and everything you see here. So again, if you're getting it as a gift for somebody, you know, or you're just a beginner and you don't have kind of anything to set up with, I actually think that this would be a nice little package to receive in the mail and kind of go through everything, you know, as a beginner. So the bow itself, we will see how it shoots. So, you know, I drew it back, let it go a couple times just to test each of the bows that we ordered. And man, I think this one seemed the most solid to me. So 320 feet on the IBO rating. You know, so let's sling a couple here inside, and then we'll go outside and we'll do our freestyle shoot like we do. But I think as a package deal, this is probably one of the better bows that you can find on Amazon. So a lot of the Amazon bows, they're fairly inexpensive. Anywhere, you know, last week we saw the one on the cheaper end, 170 bucks was that Carnage, which ended up being a fine bow. You know, for $170, you can't beat it. This is $360. I would say that the actual bow itself is a hair nicer. And then on top of it, like I mentioned, you get, you know, kind of that full package deal for somebody who doesn't have anything. It has a couple dampeners here that you put on the limbs. It's a 2-piece. You kind of clip them together and clip it on top and bottom. You know, the draw length, really, really simple to use. It has numbers 19 through 30. you undo your 2 bolts and you can line up this back board right here, kind of with whatever draw length you are. Really, really simple. Probably one of the more simple adjustments that I've seen. You know, you just kind of line it up right there with those lines. The grip, I like the thickness of it. I would probably use that little tape that they gave in the package and kind of wrap that up. The finish on this bow is kind of feels like kind of a Line-X, you know, just kind of it has a little bitty of a gritty rubber feel to it, which I kind of like. I always like a little dampener here on the end of a string stop. I think that's one of the most well-placed dampeners that you can get. You see them on Elites. They always put that there. And then again, on a budget type bow, you know, you have this kind of plastic cable guard that slides on the rod, and the rest of the bow is pretty basic. But let's go ahead, let's sling a couple. Man, the bow actually balances really well. And what I'm kind of looking for is after the shot, you know, is that follow through forced, or is it just kind of something that is natural? And man, this is super natural. The draw is not really that bad either. It's a little stiff, but it transitions pretty nice. But man, I think the weight distribution of this bow is really nice. Let's do one more. It's not very loud. Man, there's not much vibration in the hand. Again, some of these bows surprise me because you get these, you know, you get bows that are thousands of dollars, and I could be more critical, you know, on them. This $360. Again, I always like to point out, if you're beginning, don't feel the need to go buy the most expensive bow because somebody else, you know, it's kind of just like a name brand thing to me. You know, buy what suits you. Make sure that you're really wanting to put the work and effort into archery, and that it's, you know, most people I feel like that pick it up, it becomes a lifestyle and not just a hobby. But it also might not be for you, so don't feel the need to go get something that's extremely expensive. This, you know, if you're, you know, also, we've had comments from people all around the world that are, you know, maybe not too close to a bow shop or can't get a hold of certain bows, and you know, this is Amazon. This come right to your door, and it's a well constructed bow. I wouldn't mind. I mean, there's nothing right off the bat that I can say is too negative about this bow. I even like the way it looks. The other one that Top Point had in the manual, I hated that, but this one, this is nice. They had like, I think 6 different colors that you can order from. Let's do one last one before we go outside. In the draw, I like the draw more and more. So that's awesome. Awesome. $360, you get a bow, you get your bag, arrows, and like I said before, these arrows are 570 grains. You know, so I think especially if you're just starting in your backyard, go ahead and use the arrows that come in with the package, especially if you're, you know, you're shooting, you know, on the top end of that draw weight up at 70 pounds, go ahead and use those. And I think at least to get you started and get some practice in, this bow's fine. Let's go outside, we'll shoot a whole bunch of shots, and then we'll come back in and put it through a chronograph. So it said 320 on the IBO, which is also nice and fast. Man, I think for a bow online that's as inexpensive as this one is, it's a good deal. Okay, so now to the fun part. We'll shoot a whole bunch. Today's a little hot, but we'll kind of push right through it. We'll shoot at all of our 3D targets. We got a whole backyard here full of multiple different 3D targets, different angles, different depths, and kind of really get to sling some arrows through the bow, which is the best way to give you that honest review. So I'll be the first to say this is the last way I would ever recommend going about buying a bow. You know, I always tell people you got to get into a bow shop, you got to try the bow before you use it, you got to have somebody help you set it up that has experience, and then after getting multiple different bows in your hand, make a decision, okay? But the reason we're doing this is because obviously if they're selling these, that means they're, you know, people are buying them, and I thought, why not? So let's go ahead. We'll start off here with the turkey. The only thing from inside to outside that stands out, and it's kind of just across the board with some of these budget bows, is the noise that they make is so different. And I can't even tell you exactly what it is. I tightened everything down, you know, but they just make us a little bit more of a snap noise that I don't necessarily prefer. So what I have to say, the draw on this thing is really nice, which I would not expect. I probably am somebody, like the majority of you, is like, I'm not gonna buy that bow off of the internet, you know? So, and then I think that's what kind of sparked my intrigue. Is like, well, they're selling these, so people are buying them. And then you get all these good reviews underneath them saying that this is a great bow for the price. And so that kind of sparked my interest too. And then after kind of taking a look at all of them, like I mentioned before, we decided to go with the Trigon because we couldn't do a review on all of them. I thought it would be pointless. But I think best bow on Amazon for the price. This was my personal pick from the bunch. I've been up here getting more reps in every day, up here on top, shooting down at that buck at 30 yards. That's kind of like my perfect distance in the field, where I set my tree stands up off of game trails and you know, little openings, food plots. I like to be back a little bit. I like a little bit longer shot, and I don't know why, but that's kind of my perfect range. So I've been up here a lot shooting at that deer. And I think most important thing, which we've talked about on a bow to me, is the hold. Draw cycle is preference. Noise probably plays very little effect into the success of your hunt at the distances I'm shooting at. Same vibration, all of that. The hold is the most important part, and this actually holds really nice. I really like it. It's kind of a really naturally balanced bow. Everything on it, you know, with how it's set up and how it comes, this is a really nicely balanced bow. Let's go over there and we'll shoot some longer range ones. So something else I'd like to mention too is when you buy these, you know, these full setup packages, usually, and if you've watched some of our previous videos, I kind of stay away from them. I think you'll find yourself back into a bow shop sooner than you're thinking anyway, spending more money. And what I like to look for is screws going into, you know, a piece of either the sight or the rest that's metal. Okay, so, you know, this is an inexpensive sight and an inexpensive rest. These rests I really don't prefer because, like I mentioned, the bristles will wear off. I like the full whisker biscuit. If you're going to use a whisker biscuit, because you'll just be replacing these really soon too. But the actual bolts, the screws are going into metal, which is nice because that way you can really tighten them down. Same with the sight. You know, once you get it set to where you want, you're tightening it into metal. And I was really cranking it, and it really got nice and solid. So this is a plastic piece right here, plastic pins. So you might want to be careful with that. But the sight's not moving. And that's what I find with some of the less expensive sights packages that you get. If you really try to tighten it too much, it'll just strip through that plastic that it's born into, and that's when it will start to move on you. So I did like that. You know, like stabilizer's preference, I don't mind this one, but it's a nice and solid stabilizer. I like the sight, the rest. you know, I like everything that came with it. So let's go buck and then we'll go black bear. Something else I liked was that the arrows, you know, most packages, they come with these arrows like the Carnage from last week. It came with arrows that were 370 grains. So if you're pulling back 60, 65, 70 pounds, I wouldn't even recommend shooting this. You don't even get to use the arrows that it comes with. The arrows that came with this were 570 grains, I think. So they were really, you know, they're solid arrows, and at least for the practice, you know, for practicing using the bow in the beginning before you get yourself in the field, you at least have something to shoot. But, and I think the only other thing that I really like about this comparatively to the Carnage from last week is the hold, like I was mentioning. So these pins dial down real nice. You know, once it's fully set up, you can get that ball level, get the pins dialed down. Where the Carnage, man, I was having such a hard time getting that thing to settle. It did not feel good in full draw. So, you know, on the flip side, this has a really nice hold. You know, I like it. I like it. Let's do one more. One more in the black bear. One that's just a little bit better than that last shot, and then we'll go up to the elk. But man, yeah, this thing, I feel like I'm shooting a little bit better with this than I was with the Carnage. All right, let's get set up and we'll go up to the elk. All right, so my advice, you know, and there's probably many different reasons why somebody feels obligated to get, you know, to go online and buy a bow this way. And you might not be close to a bow shop. This might be the one that's in your budget. You know, you want somebody else to give you all the things that you need because you just don't know. Whatever it is, if this is what you end up going with, first I would leave the peep attachment string on, okay? And they do that because these strings and cables aren't stretched, and as they expand, your cable will constantly be twisting, and that will prevent it from twisting. I take it off because I can't stand it. So I would leave it just how it was set up. I would buy a Whisker Biscuit instead of these ones. The sight, stabilizer, everything. I even messed around with their release. Again, not horrible, but I would just say, like always, just put a lot of effort and time, you know, and practice into it, and then maybe go to a shop and have them look it over, make sure it's set up right, make sure it's set up to your draw length. So anytime you get something in the mail, maybe take it somewhere, take it to a friend or family member, somebody that has the experience to kind of know what they're looking at. Let's go. We'll jump up to the elk, which is up there at 50. If you're serious about hunting and starting this hobby sport lifestyle is what it ends up becoming, I'm pro any way you can get yourself in the field and kind of start your journey of hunting, because man, it's something special, and it's something that I feel like everyone should be a part of. You know, just make sure that you kind of go over everything before you go take the, you know, that shot attempt on an animal and get as much practice as you can. I think, as mentioned in the last video, you kind of owe it to whatever critter you're hunting, you know, to really put some good effort in, so you can place a good shot. And that's whether you're buying a brand new bow from 2022 flagship bow or an Amazon budget bow. Let's do a couple more on that elk. We'll kind of walk our way over. In one of these last ones, we'll try to put a really nice, good shot on it. So again, progressively, as I were to shoot this throughout the entire day today, You know, maybe we'll do a video one day on the first shots I place compared to at the end of the day, you know, when you can kind of get a little bit more comfortable and familiar with the bow. And sometimes it just takes a day. One good solid day of shooting, you can improve a ton with a new bow. So let's do one last one. All right, you know me, I gotta finish on a little bit better note than that. So again, I like the hold. The noise is unpleasant. I don't know if you can hear it. You know, sometimes I know the mic, it's not the same as in person, but man, it's not something I like. There we go. Okay, so again, you make some adjustments, it gets a little bit more familiar. As you work with the bow, you'll get better and better and better and better. And all those reps, all that practice will build your confidence, and then go ahead and put yourself in the field and go try to get yourself into a hunt. We're gonna go run it through the chronograph. We'll get a speed test done. We'll shoot a whole bunch more, and then we'll circle back and we'll give it a grade. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, 500 grain arrow, almost exactly. All the bolts tightened all the way. It was actually at 72 pounds, so I cranked it back a little bit. So we got 70 pounds, 29.5-inch draw. And it's at 80% let off instead of 85. But again, which we've also mentioned and kind of done a little bit of a test that the let off doesn't really play too big an effect into the speed test. So let's sing a couple through. It has 320 on the IBO. So we got 262. That said duplicate, so that's 262. Let's do a couple more. And for some reason, again, as I've mentioned, I really like a bow that's consistent. Some will jump around a lot. I get comments saying it's the chronograph test, but after doing so many of these and getting so many bows that are really, really consistent, I don't know, I think it's more the bows than the, you know, we changed the placement of the chronograph, the lighting, everything has been almost identical from the beginning. So 263, so really nice and consistent. 262, 262, and 263. We'll just leave it there. I love a consistent bow. We're gonna do a whole bunch more shooting, then we'll circle back and give you that grade. All right, we got some numbers together for the Chinese Trigon by Top Point. First, 262 on the feet per second. So it gets the 8 out of 10. Somebody in the questions asked, why does something that gets 250 feet per second get the same grade as 280? And I think that's just those speeds, anywhere between 250 to 280 with a 500 grain arrow, that is that range of speed, that's kill zone range. We reward for 280 to 290, which I think that's the perfect speed for bows nowadays. If you can get anywhere between there with a 500 grain arrow, that's what you're looking for. And then we obviously will reward even more for anything that gets above 290, which we've seen a couple times now. 262 gets the 8 out of 10 right off the bat. Quality, I gave it a 7, okay? And the reason being, the package that it comes with I like. I like that everything gets bolted into metal. The riser is aluminum. The limb pockets are also metal. Some of these things that we're not seeing on some of these budget bows are on this, and this is $360 versus some of the other bows were in the $400, $500 range and came with plastic limb pockets and other things like that. So quality, I think that it's very well put together. I did shoot this a bunch, okay? So I really put some arrows through this bow. It was a little bit cooler day, which we've had so many hot days, so I kind of really got out there and got after it. And something that I do want to point out is that the serving up here on the top started unraveling. So what I did is I kind of pushed it back and put this little dampener over it to hold it in place. But that's, other than that, the actual frame of the bow, I think is very, very well put together and nice and solid. So we gave it a 7 out of 7 for the quality. Appeal, I also gave it a 7. I really don't like to knock things too hard. I actually like the way this bow looks. It's not my favorite, but compared to the other option that they had, I like this one a lot more. So we gave it a 7. Technical, gave it a 6 out of 10. Very basic compound bow. And then for the performance, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think this bow performed really well. I think from the draw, that was really smooth. I love the way it balanced in the hands. I continually talk about the hold of a bow, you know, at full draw. That's, I guess, the most important thing to a bow hunter, you know, is how is the bow hold at full draw? Is it effortless to hold it back and steady? And this bow surprised me a little bit on that. It balanced out really, really nicely and naturally. It made a nasty thud snap sound when you shot it. And I personally just can't stand that. I couldn't really figure out where it was coming from. Sometimes you can kind of lose, you know, something will be a little bit loose somewhere, you tighten it up and that'll get rid of it. But everything on here is real tight and it just had a nasty snap. That was the really only thing I didn't like about it. But performance-wise, it shot really, really well. I'm completely surprised. And with that being said, I think that's been one of my favorite parts about doing these bow reviews is I would have assumed so much about this bow without doing yesterday and today. And I think that's most of us. So before you assume anything about a company, a manufacturer, and a certain bow, shoot it. And don't just shoot it, get it in your hands and put some arrows through it. I think I have been pleasantly surprised again and again and again this past year at bows that I wasn't even looking forward to reviewing, but I was doing it maybe because the reviewers requested it, or it just kind of got in our lineup somehow, and then it ends up being something that I really enjoyed. So keep that in mind in your bow buying process. So it does get a +3 because it's under $1,000, $360 for that and everything that you get. I think it's a great deal. And if you're starting out, don't worry about what anybody else thinks. If you want to buy a Chinese bow, go for it. It's not, I know here in America, we have a little bit different perspective of things that are made Chinese, but it performs, it gets shipped right to your door. It's a good price. It's a good bow. So it got a +3, 38 out of 100. It gets a 76 out of 100. That's a great, a great score for a bow that is $360. So don't buy a bow off a single bow review. Make sure you follow us on Instagram for more updates and what bows are up next. Obviously, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you found anything in this video that you thought was helpful in your bow buying process. Above all, get your reps in on the daily. Don't miss a day. We'll see you next Saturday.